Hey, hi everyone, this is Steve. Welcome back to my channel. If you have seen my previous videos, I really thank you a lot for that. And if you have comment and like and also subscribe to this channel, I really must sincerely thank you from the bottom of my heart. Alright, so it has been a while since my last video, and it's all due to working from home and the work schedule that I have. So with all those out of the picture now, I have a big plan in terms of setting up the entire video content creation workflow. And to kick off the whole thing, none better than unboxing video, right? So you see this box at the back on my table. This is a huge box, and you probably have guessed it right. It is a server case, right? But what kind of server case it is? It is a rack mount unit. So in my thought process, I also walk you through what I have considered to be my ideal server rack. What's the consideration for its capacity, form factor, size, and also pricing, right? So these are very important considerations. So I want to share with you my internal thought processes so that we can learn from each other. And I also want your comment, right? Share with me really what you think would be suitable for your use case, right? And there's no single solution to it, right? Face it, we have so many choices out in the market, right? We want to really choose the best item that is suitable for our budget, our use case, and potentially a reusable one as well, so to be friendly to the environment. So let's kick off with the unboxing. Hi, welcome back. So after seeing my unboxing of this server case, you probably have concluded that it is very likely to be a NAS storage, right? And you are correct, right? Because it comes with a 15 drive bay, very well suitable for large density fixed storage server. So this storage server is very critical in terms to be the main workflow engine of my video editing, video capture, as well as all my various social posting and projects. Alright, this storage server has 15 drive, and now today I already have two existing older FreeNAS servers. So one of them was built about 6 years ago using the Z77 platform. So if you know that, that is a very old platform, but it is rock steady and it works well. So it comes with 10 x 3 terabyte Western D green drives, and then about 3 years after that, I've upgraded it to another new NAS which I have using the Z97 platform. So that has 10 x 6 terabyte drives. So today in total I have 20 hard drives. But on top of that, I also have a smaller 4 bay NAS that has 10 terabyte drives. So now I've added another 3 more drives to it. I'm going to move it to here. So I will have potentially a very large capacity pool of over 100 terabyte of NAS storage. Right, so these NAS storage are very important because when I first started using FreeNAS, right, it is a very well suitable design for my home archival of all the photos I've taken using my mobile phones, my wife's phone, right, and all the holiday memories, video that we have captured, right, and over time the capacity is actually exceeding my requirement, and also the drives are getting old. So to prevent data loss from drive failures, I actually bought a brand new set of 6 terabyte drives. Initially was to offload and migrate, which I did, and then I reused the old drives for other storage purpose. So now with all these hard drives and storage capacity that I have, it's time again to do another large migration. So in my old PC case that are the tower base, it can fit at max 10 drives. So that is why I have the limitation of having 10 drives in each of these NAS cases. Right? With this 15 drive NAS, so it allows me to migrate the 6 terabyte drives into here, and also have free up some space for my 10 terabyte drives that I have in my other NAS, which is a 4 bay system. So with 15 drives, right, I need a motherboard that has the right number of PCI slots and PCI lanes to support my 2x PCIe by 8 SAS and SATA adapters, right? Each of them will power 8 drives, so I have enough slots to enough bandwidth to drive the throughput of the I/O, right? And with the extra PCIe by 4 lane, I would be able to put a 10 gig network card as well, right? So with that thought in mind, I actually have 2 motherboards that supports that. One is a ASUS Z270F motherboard that has that 2x8 and a 1x4 slot. Now with that is an older platform, and I run off a very slow Pentium kind of processor, which has 2 core 4 threads, so it is a very low powered machine, right? So what I have is also a motherboard that I have in my current asset list, which is basically a higher performance, maybe Z370 XP SLI from Gigabyte. It has the 2x8 lane config as well, and also come with a by 4. So that has enough PCIe lanes for me to support all the drive and I/O requirement. With this, I have the Intel Core i3 8100 CPU, which is a 4-core 4-thread. It is well suitable for a NAS. It has enough processing power to move I/O up to 10 gigabits per second into the network space, right? And with that, I have populated that with also 4x8 gig of DDR4 2400 MHz. So it comes with 32 gig for this machine, and I have enough space for one more drive that I can plug into the machine, which is a SATA based 120 gig drive. This is a very old drive that I have, but when you look at the smart statistics of this device, it's actually a very healthy state. So I'm going to reuse it, purpose it for NAS so that it will be able to last a pretty long time, right? So with all this explanation and also an idea of what I want to do, right, this allows me to have a full end-to-end 10 gig networking within my workspace, and I would also have 2 other major video editing and processing platform, one based off the X570 with the Ryzen 5 1600AF, which you can call it the Zen Plus platform, which is quite good, and that machine has 64 gig of memory and also comes with a GTX 1070 as my main processor. So you may have asked, why is it still the 10 series of NVIDIA? The reason is because I'm waiting for the 3000 series launching next week, which I am planning to get the 3080, and that potentially will help me drive up more of productivity of my video editing and processing, right? But my main workhorse is actually a Xiaomi gaming 15.6 inch laptop with the Intel i7 8750H processor, which is a 6-core 12-thread, and it comes with 32 gig of DDR4 2600. Right? So that allows me to do a lot of processing, and it also comes with a GTX 1060 mobile version with the laptop. So with all this equipment I have, the plan is to set up a 10 gig network, right, using a MikroTik 4-port cloud router. That allows me to have a 4 times 10 gig interfaces to my storage as well as my X570 video editing platform. My laptop, unfortunately, it has only a 1 gig network interface, but I do have a 2.5 gig network adapter running on USB 3. Then that will help me boost my workflow, right? So with all this in mind, in my future projects, I'm going to start building this NAS storage, and I'll build this up, set this on FreeNAS, and I'll migrate my 6 terabyte drive NAS onto here, and then I'll migrate the other 3 terabyte of NAS storage. I consolidate into my 10 terabyte drives. That will give it a fully configured machine. So with all these projects in mind, I'll start building up this NAS storage platform, right? And then later I'll install FreeNAS on it, set it up with the 10 terabyte drives, right? And then I'll migrate my 6 terabyte NAS onto this platform, right? And I'll share with you some of the findings and some of the performance statistics around this new platform that I have. For overclockers, we try to overclock everything in the system. One of the components is memory, and for memory, I'll use memtest A6 to verify the compatibility and stability of the memory chips at the right voltage. So in this case, I've overclocked this DDR4 2400 to DDR4 2667 at 1.3 volts, right? So memtest runs for 2 hours, intensive battery of tests around 12 tests, and the results after 2 hours is a success. So I am assured that this memory will be able to function at this configuration for a long time. So now after setting up the hardware with FreeNAS on the boot drive, which is a 64 gig M SATA M.2 drive. So now let's log in with the password that we have created during the setup. Let's take a look at what we have. Right, so this is, as of this recording, it is the latest FreeNAS version 11.3 U4.1. So once the new TrueNAS Core version 12 is out, I'll be setting up or upgrading this to that version, and then we'll run through another video on what's new and any interesting stuff that is on the TrueNAS Core 12.0. So now you can take a look at the interface here. We have the latest FreeNAS. We also have the Core i3-8100 CPU running at 3.6 GHz 4-core 4-thread. We also have the 32 gig of DDR4 dual channel, 4 sticks of 8 gig DDR4 266700 that's been overclocked, and we have the base motherboard 1 gig network interface. So next thing we're going to do now is to add the SATA HBAs to control all the 15 drives, as well as a 10 gig interface card, and that will show up next. So with this, now we'll go for a pause while I set up the hardware, and let's take a look at the setup part 2. So now after confirming that the basic setup of the FreeNAS on this hardware is all functional, the next thing to do is to add the rest of the additional cards for us to connect to all the drive and also the 10 gig network. So for the storage device, I have 2 of this PCIe Gen2x8 interface, which basically each of them support up to 8 SATA and SAS drives. So I plan to go to the max for 15 drive, and that's where I need to balance between the 2 cards. Each one of them will have 8, the other one will have 7 drives. That will allow you to have a spread of equal bandwidth on these 2, so without having to overload any of these channels. The next thing is the 10 gig network interface card. This is a Quantia AQN107. It's a PCIe Gen3x4 and it's a UTP interface. The good thing about this is it supports multi-gigabit network. So what it means is it supports the 1 gig, 2.5, 5, and as well as the 10 gig interface, depending on what switch is connected to. Right? So this is a very useful and also quite a cost-efficient card. Today it costs probably about $100. It's not that expensive, but you compare to the 1 gig card, which is basically about maybe $10. Right, so it's 10 times more, but you get a lot more bandwidth out of this. And this is the important one for me to have ensure good bandwidth across my storage device and for my workstations. Right, so now with all this, now let's start setting this up and testing it. For every project we have, there's always a lot of things that we plan for, and a lot of things also do occur along the way. So this is the same for this project. I mean, initially intended to have 2 times the storage HBAs to connect to all the drives, and also the Quanta AQN107 10GB interface cards. Unfortunately, there is some issues with the 2 storage adapters. The BIOS has some issues which I can't resolve, as you can see in my setup video. So what I resorted to is actually replacing them with a very simple PCIe to SATA adapter. So that is what you'll see in the case later. Each of them can support up to 6 SATA 3 devices. So we have 5 on each of these cards. The only challenge with the card is a PCIe Gen2x8, which is up to 500 megabytes per second of transfer speed. So fortunately, these are all mechanical hard disks, so the performance impact is not that great. So the solution here is to replace the adapter with something better. So the one that I'm getting as being shipped now is a PCIe Gen3x4 to 6 SATA 3 HBAs. That will give it adequate bandwidth. PCIe Gen3 for each link is about 1 gig. By 4, that's about 4 gigabytes per second kind of bandwidth. So it's 8 times faster than that existing card that I have still in this machine. So with that, I can have better performance across all the drives, and those are by 4. So that will slot into the one of the by 4 slot and one of the by 8 slot. So the other thing is also on the 10 gig network interface. So the 10 gig AQN107 is not supported by FreeNAS. Likewise, I intended to get the Intel X550-T2. That is also not supported. So the best is a X540 T2, but I'm not getting the card. So what I do is that I do have an existing Mellanox, right, PCIe Gen2x8 10 gig interface. This works well. This is a SFP Plus. So what I have here is a SFP Plus direct access copper cable, DAC cable. So this is a 5 meter long, so it allows it to connect one to this port, and the other part of it goes to my MikroTik cloud router. Right, so this is a very simple direct attach, and this is proven to be the lowest latency compared to UTP or compared to even fiber optics. Right, so this is actually lower latency, better performing media to use. Right, so those are the 2 changes that we have in this system build. And let's go through and set up the rest of the migration and replication tasks in FreeNAS. Right, so now we are at the FreeNAS this section. So you can see from here we have 16 drives. The first one is really the mSATA boot drive, which has the boot pool. Then we have the 4x 10 terabyte drive in the pool called Store 1, and we have the 10x 3 terabyte drives in the pool called Pool 3 TB. And we also have the last drive, which is the NVMe as a cache drive for Pool 3B. Next, let's take a look at the drive temperature. So you can see from here the temperature of the drives are generally in a very good zone, between 34 degrees to 39 degrees. With the exception of the 2 drives at the extreme ends of the array. Those are the ones that typically is the hotter drives. Okay, now let's take a look at the pool setup. So we have the 2 pools, Pool 3B with a shared as dataset, and also Store 1 shares dataset. So the replication task is to replicate from Store 1 shares dataset to Pool 3 TB shares dataset. So now in the replication task, we basically set up the replication from Store 1 shares to Pool 3B shares. So we are going to configure this to run once, and we'll monitor the results at the end of the replication. So here is the status of the pool replication. You can see that the pools are replicating pretty well, taking up only about 20 to 30% of the CPU. So this 4-core 4-thread CPU is still very capable of moving a lot of data. For the stores, you can look at it that the read-write, the reading of Store 1 is about 400 over megabyte per second, and the writing to the Pool 3 TB is about 250 megabytes per second with the cache drive in place. The ZFS replication is successfully completed and there's no errors. Let's take a look at the temperature of the NVMe drives. From the charts here, you can see that the temperature is hovering between 60 to 75, which is pretty hot. Anything above 70, 75, typically you will be throttling. I have completed the duplication of my storage, about 26 terabytes, from the 10 terabyte drive set to the 3 terabyte RAID set. So that is completed. I've also verified them using MD5 on selected files as well as for the directories. So that gives me some assurance that at least data are all copied. I've also mounted that onto my Windows PC and verified the files can be read, especially the video files as well as the audio files, just give me some assurance that all things are working fine. So all the tests are successfully completed. Right, so now here is it with the case cover removed. So you can see here I have a row of 15 drive, which has been populated with 14. So the airflow over the last drive here and also the first drive here is actually lesser, because you look at it from the fan, right, here is basically hollow and here is hollow. So the fan channel is here all the way to the maximum here. Right, so the first drive and the last drive actually will suffer in terms of temperature, right? And then the rest is basically we have a lot more cables over here. So the NVMe drive is actually hidden below the SATA HBA here. So you can see that the airflow will come in here and probably get lost here, while the NVMe drive will get pretty much a bit hotter. So I plan to have an exhaust fan to suck the hot air, so at least there is also a convection current to move hot air out of the chassis through the exhaust. So I've ordered a 120 by 30 blower fan, that means 120 wide plus thickness of 30 mm. Right, here is also probably about 30 to 35 mm, so I have enough space, and that will help to draw more hot air out of the chassis. Right, so the blower fan will come with a 4-pin PWM, and I can actually put it onto the server fan plug here. That will also help us monitor the fan rotation and performance, and if there's any problem with the fan, I will know. So you can see from the system here is actually pretty much fully occupied. Right, so you can see from here I have 2 spots here for the extra drives, as well as one more unit over on the motherboard. So in total I have a 3 SATA port free. That will allow me to reconfigure the 4 drive 10 terabyte RAID set here into a 7 drive RAID Z2. Then with the data migration from this RAID set to the 7 drive RAID Z2 set, once that is done, I will reconfigure this into 8 drive, then reposition the 3 10 terabyte drives into the 3 slots here, and this is basically all done up. Right, this will be a full unit. Following that, then another project is basically to copy the files that I have on my 6 terabyte RAID Z2 set with 10 drives, to copy over onto this as my main NAS unit. Right, then following that we'll see what to do with the 6 terabyte, or probably I'll replace that into this system with the 6 terabyte. So it's still an option. Do leave me your comments. What do you think? Should I keep the 3 terabyte here, leave my 6 terabyte as a secondary NAS, or should I just now put a 6 terabyte here and then just fill up my 3 terabyte? Right, these drives are all working perfectly. They have no errors on the 3 terabyte. So no, it's still effective. So with a 3 terabyte usable about 2.7, in a 6 drives configuration usable on a RAID Z2 set with 8 disks, that comes up to be about 16 over terabytes. So it's still quite a sizable amount of space for me to store as potentially a backup of my data set as a replica. So in case any drive failure, I always have a backup and always can replicate the snapshot. Right, that is more of a failover and also as a backup insurance. Right, although I have 2 drive here as a parity, here I have 2 drives, but drives being a mechanical device, they do fail. So this is a way to ensure that longevity of the data set. Right, so now what I plan to do is really to shut it down, reconfigure drives, and that will be part of the second set of video. Right, so that's so much for now. Hope you enjoy the setup migration and the things that I walked through here. So there's some very interesting things. Right, hope you appreciate that. Leave me your comments, subscribe if you like it, and if you like this video and you feel that the content is great, do toss me a like. That will be
helping me a lot in this video and also my content creation. Do leave me your comments. What do you think about this FreeNAS ZFS NAS storage of mine, and also what do you think would be the potential use case for that, right? And if you think that you're also setting out on this journey, do let me know how I can help you in that, how to set up your ZFS, what kind of hardware you should choose, right? All those things, right? Do drop me a question, right? I'll try my best to help out as much as I can. And knowledge sharing is also very important in my channel, so appreciate all your help. Thank you so much, and see you in my next one.